Trails of Cold Steel 4 is Isekai harem trash. Or at least that's what someone commented on one of my videos, and you know what? They might be right. Now, I have been on a journey through the Trails series for almost 2 years now, and I have finally finished Trails of Cold Steel 4, and it's time to talk about it, get my thoughts out there, put them on the internet, and hopefully don't draw the ire from the Trails community. But it's probably going to offend some people at some point in this video, so we'll just roll with the punches. Now, before I get into the video, again, spoilers, there's no way to talk about this game without spoiling things, so if you haven't played any of the Cold Steel games, let alone any of the Trails games, this is probably not the video you should be watching. But as always, if I forget anything, leave a comment down below. Let's talk about it there. Now let's talk about Rean Schwarzer, the main protagonist across all the Cold Steel series. And I gotta say, overall, I like Rean. You know, we have some similarities. We're both teachers. We're both ladies' men. Rean is a cool character that I did warm up to as the games progressed. And by the end of Cold Steel 4, I was like, Rean's not that bad. He's kind of earned his spot among the heroes of Cold Steel. Is he as good as Estelle or Lloyd or even Kevin? Not really, although you could probably debate that in the comments. But overall, I thought Rean's whole character arc of being the chosen one or the sacrifice was a little too neat at times. It was kind of stuff that we've seen through other forms of entertainment or other movies or books or things like that, where it's a little too neat and it's just kind of meh, but that doesn't really mean that it's bad necessarily. It's just one that we're used to, so it doesn't really surprise us. Overall, I did think Rean was a cool protagonist. I did like his character arc. I did like where it ended in Cold Steel 4, although the ending did make me think that he actually did die at one point, but thankfully, you know, you reload it. I'm getting ahead of myself here talking about the true ending. But this all ties in with Giliath Osborne. Sorry, my notes, it says Giliath Osborne, which is kind of what it feels like when you fight him. He's a bit of a Goliath character, but he is this series' Thanos. He is the big bad threat that you are going to fight at the end of Cold Steel 4. And I gotta say, how did they make a character better than Osborne? He was definitely imposing. He was scary. He was threatening. When you fight him at the end of the game, he's genuinely scary. That S-craft, or maybe it's not even an S-craft, but that craft that he does that has like a giant lion head coming out from behind him and he does this big old attack, definitely scary. Which that fight was actually a lot of fun. Him in the Divine Knight battle part of his fight wasn't so much fun. That was kind of difficult for me just because Divine Knight battles are hard from time to time depending on what you're doing. But him as a character was really impressive. The way that he managed to always stay 4 or 5 steps ahead of everybody, including Ishmelga, and outsmarting him was impressive. It was cool. This is a character that you love to hate, but you're also impressed by because of his tenacity, his intellect, his imposing appearance every time that he is on screen. So hats off to Falcom, you made a really good villain here. Although, can we really consider Osborne a villain, considering he is kind of the reincarnation? Resurrected? He's a version of Dreikel's? I don't know. Especially looking at the end of the game when him and Rean have that almost kind of Lloyd and Guy moment at the end of Azure where they're talking in the spirit plane sort of thing and have this heart-to-heart. That was really cool, but again, it's one of those things where it just doesn't quite, it's just one of those things where it just doesn't quite land as well as it did in Azure, but maybe that's just some sort of bias showing. I have no idea. And that's the thing with Cold Steel 4 is that you have a lot of these characters and their arcs kind of coming to a close to a degree or wrapping up in some way. And I gotta say, not everybody has a really good, satisfying end to their arc. I thought Claire was actually wasted a lot. They spent some time setting her up in the first 3 Cold Steel games, only to just kind of drop her in Cold Steel 4 and never really go anywhere with her, especially as a potential love interest to Rean. It just never really goes anywhere. It's just kind of left just hanging, really. It's kind of sad, actually, because Claire is actually a really cool character in the first 2 to 3 Cold Steel games. And then you just never really see her again. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we're forgetting about her, along with some other characters, like Laura, for example, is another one they left on the wayside, along with some other members of Class 7, both new and old, that it's just, they just never really have their moment to shine, and they never really do anything. I thought Lecter's arc was okay. It was fine how it ended. It's like, okay, I get it. It makes sense or whatever. Cedric, I actually thought, had a really good sort of redemption arc to a degree at the end, where he frees himself from the power of the curse and he makes his own decision to fight and test himself against Kurt in Class 7. That's actually a pretty cool moment. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see where Cedric goes and what happens with him in future games, if he even comes up, just because I'm real curious to see how he evolves as a character and if he ultimately becomes a good guy or if he's like an anti-hero sort of thing. So congratulations, Falcom. You made me care about the turd stain that is Cedric. Can I say turd stain on YouTube without getting demonetized? But Kurt is another one that I have wrestled with for the last 2 games. I've always liked Kurt to a degree. I thought his skill set was really good. I liked his moves. I like just having him in combat. I thought he was really, really useful. But as a character, he just never really had his moment to shine. And by the time I got to the end of Cold Steel 4, I was like, I still feel the same way about Kurt. Like, yeah, he had this cool moment where he fought Cedric and they had this kind of rivalry sort of thing happen. But beyond that, it just my boy Kurt just doesn't have a moment. He doesn't have any of his moments, and it bums me out a little bit. I wish he did, but he doesn't. But we can't talk about characters without talking about everyone's favorite game, Waifu Wars. Now, this is a thing that has been, I shouldn't say hotly debated in the Discord, it's just been discussed. But for kicks and giggles, we'll say it's been hotly debated. No pun intended. This is a thing that's been debated in the Discord, in my comments and things like that. Like, who is the best girl for Rean in Trails of Cold Steel? In the past games, I picked Laura because I thought her honor and integrity and devotion to getting better as a swordsman matched Rean's integrity and devotion to getting better with the sword really, really well. But in Cold Steel 3 was where we see Laura kind of get left to the wayside. And then you have this moment at the end of Cold Steel 3 where her dad dies and you think, oh, she's gonna have some character development in Cold Steel 4. Then you get to Cold Steel 4 and they don't do anything with Laura. Her dad comes back and she just doesn't have any character development. She's just stiff as a board. She's as wet as a cardboard box. And she's just not interesting anymore. And that's the thing, on stream, I save scummed a lot and reloaded and checked out kind of the final romance moments with most of the characters. And I wasn't really impressed with any of them. None of them really felt organic or authentic to a degree. As a matter of fact, the one choice I thought was the best was the one where you don't pick any girls and you hang out with the boys, and then there's this cool scene on the beach where all the characters are watching the fireworks, and I'm like, this is what this feels like Trails. Every other character, not so much. So as far as the waifu wars are concerned, I mean, I think the real answer is the best waifu for Rean is the boys, but we all know it's actually Emma. Now, in my previous reviews for Cold Steel 3, I complained a lot about the theme of death and how death is handled in this series and how they kill off characters and just keep bringing them back. And I did jump the gun a little bit early in that review when I complained about Crow coming back and all that jazz, because come to find out, in Cold Steel 4, the reason Crow is back and some of the other characters that are back are because of this rivalries thing that's bringing about kind of the end of the world or the apocalypse sort of situation, to which I thought, oh, okay, I jumped the gun a little bit, my bad, I should have let Falcom cook a little bit, this works. And you have this timer that is kind of always at the back of your head where you're always thinking, at the end of this game, Crow is dying again. We're going to lose Crow, we're going to lose Millie, and that's going to suck. But then you keep playing the game, and I think it's at the end of Act 2 or maybe the Fragments chapter, one of those, where Prince Oliver, Victor Arside, and Toval all come back, even though it looks like they died at the end of Cold Steel 3, and you're like, yeah, of course they come back. Oh, Victor Arside's a bad guy now. Oh no, he's wearing a mask. Oof.
Leave the fair maidens to me. I can handle them.
Are you kidding me? I thought we were rid of her, and now she's back. Why? Look, this is a thing where if you are a main character in this series and you die, I don't believe you are actually dead at this point. As a matter of fact, when the Steel Maiden dies at the end of her divine battle, I was sitting there thinking, this really sucks, but at the same time, you're probably just going to come back in reverie anyway. Because at this point, this is what I'm saying. The way that the Cold Steel series has handled deaths of these main characters or kind of prominent characters, even if they're side characters, has not been handled very well. The problem that arises when you kill off these characters only to bring them back later, the initial moment where they died feels cheap. Prince Oliver having an eye patch now being Solid Snake, or I guess Big Boss is the one that had the eye patch. No, Solid Snake had the eye patch. Him being back, it served no purpose, really. It was just for shock value, like, oh my gosh, they killed him off. They're not gonna kill off Prince Oliver, so having him come back was just kind of a waste. Toval coming back was a waste. Victor Arside coming back was a complete and total waste that could have been used to develop Lara's character even better and to have her do something in Cold Steel 4 instead of just stand there and talk about the way of the sword. It's a bummer because, again, my opinion hasn't really changed about this, and I know this has kind of caused some contention with some people who have checked out my reviews, but I think killing off these characters only to bring them back later serves no real purpose, and it lacks any kind of courage because why kill them off if you're just going to bring them back? Where's the finality in it? Death means nothing in this series if you are a main or prominent character. It just doesn't mean anything. And plus it robs other characters of character development that they could have had and been made more interesting. But alas, we have these characters back, and so it is what it is. I will say that I do like that Oliver did come back and get to marry Shara at the end because I think that was a fitting end for those two characters. I feel like that was well worth it. But not having Crow or Millie die at the end of the game, that there's no potential for character development now with those characters, with Eustace dealing with his grief that might put him on a razor's edge of becoming like his brother Rufus. There's no edge now with the original Class 7 and Crow coming back because they're like, well, we got our friend back, so it is what it is. It makes things too neat, too clean, and it just doesn't really do what I think it could have done for the story. Now, one of the things that I heard about going into Cold Steel 4 is the padding in this game, that this game is ridiculously padded and it's grotesque in how the game is padded out. And I didn't really think the padding in this game was really all that bad. That was one of the other issues I want to cover in this review. I do think Act 2 is the biggest slog of the game, where it's like kind of pointless to slow the breaks down on the pacing in the game, just to have me go talk to some allies who aren't really my allies but are actually my allies just for a test of strength, just to get some NPCs back. I mean, let's be honest, they can keep Elise and Alphen. We don't care about those two, right? I just didn't understand why we had to actually slow everything down just to get these characters back, because Cold Steel 2 did it, so we got to do it here in Cold Steel 4. Act 2, if you could cut Act 2 out of the game, I think it would make Cold Steel 4 a significantly better game because of it. Because I'm going to be honest, there were a lot of times I was playing Cold Steel 4 and during Act 2, and I straight up fell asleep. I was playing it in my chair and I just fell asleep. I was like, this is really boring. But everything else that's in the game, I actually enjoyed. But Act 2, yeah, we can skip that. But this begs the question about where do I rank the Cold Steel games amongst the other arcs in the Legend of Heroes series so far. I want to talk about ranking the Cold Steel games first and foremost within the arc itself. And I've really wrestled with this. I'm torn between Cold Steel 3 and 4 at the top spot, just because 3 I really like. The introduction of New Class 7 was really well done. I think the pacing of that was pretty good, even if it was very cyclical and it was a longer game. But I also thought that 4 had some really amazing moments. I mean, this is bringing together all of the games so far and bringing all those characters together on one screen and having these really cool Avengers Endgame moments that were so satisfying to watch. Even just the beginning of Cold Steel 4 made me lose my mind, break my mic, and all that stuff on stream. It was so much fun. Is it my boy? Yeah! Wait a minute! And I'm really torn on it because there's things I like about both, but man, with Cold Steel 4 in Act 2 specifically, and them just bringing characters back that died in the previous game was really frustrating. I did like how Cold Steel 3 ended on a cliffhanger that was just like broke my brain on stream. I'm torn where to place those. I think if I were to rank those games today, at least the Cold Steel arc, it would be 3 is number 1, 4 is 2, 2 is 3, and 1 is at the bottom. Now that doesn't really mean that 1 is absolutely terrible. It's just definitely the weakest after having played all 4 Cold Steel games. It's definitely the one I'm probably not going to replay anytime soon, whereas 3 and 4 I could see me revisiting, especially when the PS5 ports come out next year. And that's kind of the thing with 4, is that it has so many awesome moments though that it makes me really glad I started from the beginning with Trails in the Sky. I mean, just seeing all these characters come back and seeing how they develop and seeing Oliver and Shara working together, joking with each other, and then ultimately getting married at the end was really cool. I was like, it's nice seeing these characters I've seen and really rode with for so long. I mean, almost 2 years, have these happy endings that just make me feel good on the inside. And maybe that's what Falcom was trying to do with the Cold Steel arc as a whole, was not leave you so sad and depressed like how Cold Steel 3 ended, but to give you a satisfying end where everybody's together and it's all happy, it's fine, everything is good, even though that extra scene kind of leads me thinking that we're not out of the woods yet. And plus, man, I gotta say, as much as I like new Class 7 over old Class 7, I think I like them for different reasons. I think I like new Class 7 because their introduction is much better paced. There's not a lot of characters to get used to. There's just Yuna, Kurt, Altina, Ash, and Musei, and they're given enough time to where you get connected to all those characters and you care about each and every one. But old Class 7, there's so many of them, you're just like, okay, who are you again? Maki who? Like, I don't care about you, my guy, please get out of here. But at the same time, I'm thinking about all the characters I used in battles, and most of them were old Class 7, with the exception of Musei, because Musei is a powerhouse when it comes to being an arts user. But Gaius is great for status effects, and then Eustace is great for his platinum shield ability, which helped me basically cheese a lot of the cryptid fights in Cold Steel 4. Emma's a powerhouse. Laura is a juggernaut with the sword. I mean, Fee is Fee the best character in old Class 7? I would say so. She literally dodges everything except quality character development. She got hit with that one.
Thank you so much, Dad.
Oh man, that scene with Ruker's really sad. But if I had to rank the arcs as a whole, I would say that Trails in the Sky is still my favorite, even though I had a very rocky start with Sky first chapter. Sky is the one that I am the most fond of when I look back on it and think about it. I have really good memories. I look back on it fondly, and I just really like a lot of those characters. Estelle, Joshua, just all of them. I love them. And then after that is the Crossbell duology, because Lloyd is my boy. I love the SSS. And then Cold Steel comes after that. But that's not to say that Cold Steel is crap. It's just when you compare it to those two, I mean, it had a lot to live up to, and it had 4 games to do so. I just never really felt like it reached those heights that the Sky series did, the Crossbell games did, in my opinion. Now, again, I know this is going to differ between a lot of fans in this series, but you let me know what your rankings are down in the comments below. I'm sure there's a lot that we can discuss. Now, I've left out a lot to talk about in Cold Steel 4, and part of that is because of timing on this video. I want to make sure that this video is not like insanely long, but it's also because I have a bit of a goldfish brain and I finished the game a couple weeks ago, and it's taken me so long to do this video that I'm sure I've forgotten a lot by now, as people in chat will definitely let you know. If there's something I miss, leave a comment down below. But there's a few things I gotta take care of before I end this video, and one of them is shout out to everyone who's been with me, words are hard. Shout out to everyone who's rode with me on this journey through the Trails games up to this point, and you haven't spoiled anything. You've given me helpful hints and tips. Especially shout out to Arcane Gale for helping me out with the builds and things like that in Cold Steel 3 and 4. That was just Totally clutch. Seriously, I appreciate y'all riding with me. I appreciate a lot of you supporting the channel and getting this channel over 2,000 subscribers this year. Y'all support blows my mind because I'm just some random dude in Texas that's playing through the series for the first time and greatly enjoying it. And so I'm glad I could bring some kind of entertainment or value to y'all. Now, that being said, we're caught up to Trails into Reverie. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually streaming Trails into Reverie over on this YouTube channel. And I don't know when this video is going to be posted, so it'll either be before or after. Regardless, there should be a 12-hour stream on the channel of me playing Trails into Reverie for the very first time. So if this comes out before the stream, I would love to have you there on the channel. If you are watching this afterwards, it's still on the channel, go check it out. See how I react. People are telling me that the opening to Reverie is just like it blows the doors off a lot of stuff. It opens with a bang, and I'm like, well, I'm looking forward to it. It's a good thing I've got a backup mic because I'm sure this one is going to get obliterated. But speaking of streams as well, if you want to see certain parts of my playthrough of Cold Steel 4, those are available here on the channel as well. If you go over to the live tab, they're all in a playlist. It's not a full playthrough, but it's definitely the more exciting parts of Cold Steel 4. But with that being said, thank you for watching this video. As always, leave a like on this video if you liked what you heard or saw or however you watch this. Leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel for more Trails content as well. And until next time, be a deer, keep it locked here. I'll see you in the next video.